Have you ever seen a hedgehog in your garden? If you have, then you're very lucky because they do lots of very useful work. This story is called A Sleepy Hedgehog. In Heatherfield Farm the year was getting older. The days were getting shorter, and all our little friends who lived there were beginning to put a few extra clothes on because it was becoming colder. Leaves on the trees were changing colour from their summer green into yellows, reds and brown, and whenever the wind blew, they would be swept into the air to float and then fall, covering the ground in a thick and soft-scented carpet. Jacob the gardener had been working very hard. He had picked the last tomatoes, courgettes, marrows, onions and runner beans from the vegetable plot. He had dug up parsnips, Swedes and potatoes and stored many of them in one of the 2 outhouses. He still had cabbages, Brussels sprouts and perpetual spinach, which he would allow to grow for a while longer. In the orchard he had lots of help from the Sutcliffe family, and especially Leo and Felicity, picking apples and pears. They filled up boxes and gave many of them to Meg in the village shop to sell. Of course, Jacob took some boxes home to his cottage, where he had a special machine that squeezed and turned the fruit into juice. From this he made strong cider and perry. He thought these drinks were much better than a glass of beer. Leo said he wanted some too, but Jacob said it was for grown-ups, and that if children were given it, they would soon feel very woozy and giddy. One of the really big jobs Jacob had was to clear the many fallen leaves. He left quite a lot on the ground in the orchard and the small forest, because he said they would die down, rot, and go back into the soil to feed the trees when they woke up again in the springtime. But Jacob liked to tidy garden, so if there were too many leaves, he would put some on the compost and the rest on the vegetable plot, where he would have a really big bonfire. He said that ashes from the bonfire would do the garden a lot of good and help the plants to grow. Of course, whilst Jacob was doing his work in the garden, the Tiddlewits were also very busy getting ready for the colder days. The whole family had been collecting fallen fruit, which Mrs. Tiddlewit cooked and put into bottles so they could eat them later. They had also gathered many nuts, especially hazelnuts, because these are a very good food. Mrs. Tiddlewit ground many of the nuts into flour so that she could make bread, biscuits and pastry. She had a lot of help from Cyril the squirrel. The nuts all had very hard shells, so he used his very sharp teeth to nibble and crack them open. Mrs. Tiddlewit could not have done it on her own. In another part of the garden, the Niffypongs were having their busiest time of the year. The masses and masses of old plants, leaves and garden rubbish Jacob was putting on the compost created a huge amount of work for Mr. Niffypong, the worms, insects and microbes. They needed every minute of the day to get things done, as each new heap was dropped onto their heads. Dr. Woohoo had much to do as well. As soon as the weather became colder, many of the little people in the surrounding fields and gardens started to get coughs and sneezes. Even Pickle and Pumpkin had to stay in bed for a few days because they had sore throats. Dr. Woohoo visited them all, taking medicines that he had made from the special flowers and plants he had found in the gardens. One day, Mr. Niffypong said, I'm tired. We've done a lot of work, and I think we should have a day off. Hey, what about inviting all our friends to come and have a party, and to thank the garden for all the wonderful things it has given us this year? Everyone thought this was a really good idea. So, one afternoon, when the sun still shone, the Tiddlewits, the Niffypongs, the Wahoos, Cyril the Squirrel, Tolstoy, Roberta Robin, and even Mrs. Duck and the Moorhen gathered around the old oak tree to dance, to sing, and to eat marvellous food. When they had had enough, they all decided to sit on the moss for a chat and a rest. Mr. Tittlewit was lying on his back, lazily chewing the straw, when he saw something in the sky. "Oh, look," he said, "the swallows have started to migrate." They were all beginning to fly south. "What's migrate?" asked Pickle. "Well," Mr. Tittlewit explained, "migration is when some of our friends, the birds, decide it's too cold with too little food here for them to stay. They fly to warmer places where they can get plenty to eat. I imagine the martins, warblers, cuckoos and nightingales will be off pretty soon as well." "But what happens to animals that can't fly?" asked Seraphine. Well, pondered Mr. Tittlewit, "I suppose they just have to make do. Cyril here collects and buries lots of nuts so he can have them later on. And Roberta Robin has always lots of worms she can get out of the grass and the vegetable plot." Mr. Tittlewit thought a bit more and added, "Then of course there are creatures that hibernate." "What's hibernate?" Pickle asked. "And why do you keep saying these difficult words, Daddy?" "Well, hibernate," laughed Mr. Tittlewit. "Well, how do I explain that? Oh, I know. I bet you've never seen a dormouse, a bat, a toad or a grass snake in winter time. It's because they've all gone to sleep. If it's too cold and they can't find any food, they say to themselves, 'I'm going to bed until it gets warmer and there's something to eat.' So, my children, if you ever hear snoring in the middle of a very cold day coming from a secret nest, please creep softly by. It could be someone hibernating." After the party, everyone hugged each other and went off home feeling very merry. Pickle felt ever so proud because now he had learnt 2 new words, migrate and hibernate. He thought about them a lot and dearly wanted to meet someone who was going to hibernate. His wish would be granted a few days later. Pickle and Pumpkin were out for a stroll because their mother had told them not to sit around all day in the warm and to go out and get some exercise. When they came to the vegetable plot, they saw that much of it had been cleared and dug over, and that there was a huge pile of leaves in the middle. They also saw a dark brown spiky creature looking very busy. When they got closer, they realized it was Mr. Prickle the Hedgehog. He was munching the last of a big orange slug and seemed very pleased with himself. "My, that was good," he said, licking his lips. "I've been filling up a lot recently. Need to get a bit fatter because I probably won't get my next breakfast until springtime, when the snowdrops and crocuses start flowering." Pickle was suddenly very interested. "Are you going to hibernate, Mr. Prickle?" he asked, feeling very important, using his new word. What's hibernate?" Mr. Prickle looked rather confused and yawned. He was certainly looking very sleepy. "Hibernate is about going to sleep for a very long time," Pickle attempted to explain. "Oh, well then, that's what I'm going to do," replied Mr. Prickle, rubbing his eyes. "See that big pile of leaves?" he continued. "It's nice and snug there where the rain and frost can't get in. That's where I'm going to have my sleep." And with that, Mr. Prickle turned round and went off in search of one last slug. 2 days later, Mr. Niffypong knocked on the Tittlewits' front door at the bottom of the old oak tree. He was very concerned indeed. When the door opened and Mr. Tittlewit appeared, Mr. Niffypong said very quickly, "Come with me. I think Mr. Prickle is in trouble." The Tittlewits rushed to put on their coats, hats and boots, and then ran to catch up with Mr. Niffypong. On the way, and quite breathless, Mr. Niffypong explained that the big man, that was Jacob, had started to burn the large pile of leaves in the middle of the vegetable plot. "So what's wrong with that?" asked Mr. Tittlewit. wondering what all the fuss was about. "Mr. Prickle is in the middle of the pile of leaves," Mr. Niffypong explained. "He's probably fast asleep and has no idea what's happening. We've got to get him out or he'll get cooked." Now the Tiddlywits and Mr. Niffypong began to run even faster. When they got to the vegetable plot, they saw a plume of smoke coming from the big pile of leaves. "We may be in time," said Mr. Tiddlewit, sizing up the situation. "Those leaves are still damp and will take a long time to burn. It's just the smoke that worries me. Very soon Mr. Prickle won't be able to breathe." Mr. Niffypong was now joined by his family, and, together with the Tiddlewits, advanced on the burning pile of leaves, taking great care that none of it fell on them. They circled the pile of leaves, trying to work out where Mr. Prickle had entered it. "He could be anywhere. I've no idea where he is," said Mr. Niffypong. He looked desperate, because he began to think there was nothing they could do. Then Seraphine had a brilliant idea. "Tolstoy has got the best sniffing nose in the world," she declared, "and he's got strong paws. If we get him here, he'd soon sniff where Mr. Prickle is, and then he'll dig him out." Seraphine then took a deep breath and gave a very high-pitched scream. It was a special scream that only a dog with its fantastic ears would be able to hear. Tolstoy was in the house when he heard it. He knew that someone needed his help and thought it might be Seraphine, because he had heard her scream once before. He instantly raced to the kitchen door, barking loudly and scratching at it. "Ruff, ruff, ruff, ruff!" "What on earth's got into Tolstoy?" said Sally Sutcliffe, looking rather puzzled as she opened the kitchen door for her determined dog. Tolstoy shot out of the kitchen and ran as fast as he could to where he heard the screaming. He soon found Seraphine, who explained what had happened. Tolstoy knew exactly what to do. He started to go round the burning leaves, sniffing for some trace of Mr. Prickle. It wasn't easy, because the smoke was becoming very thick, making everyone cough and their eyes water. Then Tolstoy barked. "Woof, woof, woof!" He had found where Mr. Prickle had gone into the pile of leaves. Now he started frantically to tear up the leaves, pulling them away, trying to dig a hole in the large pile and get closer to the poor hedgehog. Jacob was in his greenhouse when he heard Tolstoy's loud barking and wondered what was happening. He rushed out and trotted towards the vegetable plot. The Niffypongs and Tiddlewits immediately went into hiding. They did not want Jacob to see them. "What are you up to, my young friend?" Jacob asked when he got to the dog. But Tolstoy didn't stop. He dug and he dug and he dug. "There's something in there you're trying to get out, isn't there, my boy?" Jacob knew he had to help. He did not want Tolstoy to burn his paws or his nose. Picking up a nearby rake, Jacob began to break the pile of leaves where Tolstoy was digging. Fortunately, the fire hadn't spread that far, and very soon Jacob reached the bottom of the pile. Suddenly he felt something with his rake. "Hey, what have we got here?" he declared as Mr. Prickle appeared amongst the leaves. Very carefully, and wearing his gardening gloves because Mr. Prickle was very prickly, Jacob lifted up the sleeping hedgehog. "Well, that's a rather silly place to go to sleep," he said. Tolstoy was barking with joy and jumping up trying to see Mr. Prickle. "Hey, watch out, Tolstoy," warned Jacob. "You don't want to get any of these prickles in your nose." From their hiding place, the Niffypongs and Tiddlewits wanted to clap and shout, "Hurrah!" but knew that if they did, Jacob would turn round and probably find them. So they tried to keep as quiet as possible. "Now, what are we going to do with you, my sleepy one?" wondered Jacob, as he walked back up the garden, still holding Mr. Prickle. "I know. I'll make a comfortable little nest for you in my greenhouse. You'll be safe and snug in there." So Jacob got a strong cardboard box. He put some straw in it, and then deposited Mr. Prickle in the middle, covering him with a piece of sacking. He also left a dish of water next to the box, in case Mr. Prickle woke up and was thirsty. During the winter months, Jacob often came to check that Mr. Prickle was all right. When springtime finally came, and the weather became a little bit warmer, Mr. Prickle began to stir. He stretched, snuffled, and yawned. Finally, his eyes opened. He was rather confused. "Am I still dreaming?" he asked. "I thought I was under a pile of leaves. How did I get here?" Then something rumbled in his tummy, and he went off to search for a slug.